first day was at Prop Plaza. I don't know if you remember it. Was that before your time?
That was a little before my time,
Okay.
but I know of it.
Yeah.
I know of it.
Yeah, it was crazy. I basically, there was an ad, you know, for character auditions, but it was like fuzzy animated character.
Okay.
Well, I just showed up as a juggler, and I said, I'm a juggler, and if you want to hire a juggler, I'm available. And they said, okay, well, yeah, let's do it.
Yeah.
So that's how it started.
Nice.
My first day, I get here. I believe his name, I think he's in creative now. I think John Corsino. I don't know.
Yeah.
He was in entertainment then, and he said, okay. And we got in a van, and he took me down to Prop Plaza, and he said, you'll perform here, and if you want drinks, just go there and tell them to give you drinks. And then when you want food, just tell them to give you food. And at the end of the day, tell them to call a van, and they'll come get you. And he said, see ya. And so there I was all day long, all by myself. I didn't know anybody. And so it was very bizarre.
Yeah.
Very bizarre first day. Even at one point, a security guard walked up to me and he goes, do you work here? And yeah, so that was it, very first day.
Balls, pins, bunch of stuff?
Yeah, a bunch of stuff. Balls, pins, tennis rackets, basketballs.
Wow.
And then I worked my way eventually into a warm-up at the Animal Show.
Okay.
I did a little bit in front of Star Trek, juggling when they opened Star Trek here. Yeah, that was very odd because I had my juggling equipment. I walked around the corner over here, and on the opening day of Star Trek, as I came around the corner, the cast of Star Trek was right there having coffee.
Okay.
And I mean, all of them.
Like the actual Star Trek?
Yeah.
Okay.
Captain Kirk, Spock.
Okay.
They were all there,
Yeah.
the whole cast for the opening day.
Oh, wow.
And it just kind of like, wow, you know, it was bizarre. And then later, on a day soon after that, another big press party, a guy in a wheelchair, and I didn't know who it was, but it was Gene Roddenberry, the creator of Star Trek. And so, fortunately, I got to meet a lot of old Hollywood celebrities.
We call them classic.
Well, classics. But it was, and in those early days, Lou Wasserman was a big character guy, big push. Every time he had a party or a meeting or something, he'd want characters there. So we do a lot of rooftop Sheraton parties. And, you walk into those parties and, Walter Lantz would come in and everybody. And I was doing Stan Laurel, and I'm talking to Pat Buttram. If you know Pat, Gene Autry's sidekick.
Pat Buttram.
Pat Buttram, and he had a few drinks, and he looked at me and he goes, "Hey Stan, how's it going? My wife used to write you letters." And after about 5-10 minutes, I felt like he thought he was talking to Stan Laurel. It was really kind of. And then he even went as far as to say, "The only reason I'm here is because Lou told me I had to be here." And that's kind of the way it was. Lou Wasserman would say, "I'd be at the party." And they'd all show up, And
so you've got stories.
Oh, stories. Walter Lantz, I got to meet him a lot.
Did you really?
Oh, yeah.
That's cool.
Yeah.
He came on the property a lot?
Oh, yeah. He was even in one of our Christmas parades on the trolley.
Really?
Yeah, we had to. So we're backstage over there by the old vault, that area, right behind Waterworld over there. And there's some restrooms over there. I guess the tour guides used to break over there, maybe back. Anyway, there's restrooms. So Walter Lantz had a female assistant, and she came up to me. I was Doc Brown in the parade, and she goes, "Doc, would you be so kind to take Mr. Lance to the men's room?" I was like,
As Doc.
as Doc, you know, and Walter Lance is pretty old at the time, and we walk in the restroom, and I'm doing Doc Brown. I don't know why, but I'm kind of doing Doc Brown and going, "Oh, Walter, is this number one or number two? Because I'm not touching Woody." And he, he kind of chuckled, but he was really, he was pretty feeble,
Yeah.
So anyway, luckily it was number one. So he did his business, and I walked him back out. But it was like, you walk away going, "Oh, who's gonna ever believe this story?"
Yeah.
Yeah, you can't make this
Yeah.
stuff up.
And then to finish off on that, now that it just popped in my head, we're waiting back there for the parade, and the animal show had Beethoven in its show at that time, and so they had Beethoven in the parade.
Okay.
And we also had Harry from Harry and the Hendersons in the parade. So as we're waiting there, I look over there, and there's Harry. There's Harry standing there like this, just looking, And I look down, and Beethoven is urinating on him like he's a tree, like he's a tree, and the guy in the hairy costume has no idea that he's being peed on. True story, right there.
Hilarious.
Yeah. So that was that. Anyway, I don't want to bore you with stories,
No.
but there's just lots of that type of stuff.
So many.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I-
Crazy.
Oh,
Yeah.
And it was, back then, it was, we were a movie studio. It was really studio driven, everything,
you traveled a lot too. When you
Yeah,
didn't you?
we traveled all over. Yeah.
Like all over the world, right?
All over the world. Characters were really big, and they understood the power of what characters could do. And because these were all studio execs, and they would never. Why would you send a character to London or to Copenhagen, Denmark, if there wasn't some kind of return for the studio,
Yeah.
So you look back on it now, and you can see it was a big deal, because we would make a lot of press coverage. I remember waking up in Denmark and seeing my picture in the morning papers in Denmark. I have copies of it at home
Wow.
somewhere in storage, but because we were with the ambassador of the United States for Denmark, and so we made the picture. It was that type of stuff.
Yeah.
You told me a story years ago with you and Ollie. You were in some foreign country, and something very bizarre. I can't recollect exactly what it was. Some unusual thing having to do with, was it beer or? I don't remember exactly.
Well, Denmark was a kind of a eye-opening, because it. First off, there were no. I also I don't want to take the blame for it, but I'm kind of instrumental in starting the creation of like PAs and coordinators, because we didn't have any of that.
Yeah.
When we went to Denmark, they had to get an Oliver Hardy for me, so they got an Oliver Hardy, and my boss at the time, he looked at me and he said, "Jimmy, you have more experience, so you're in charge."
Wow.
So it was just the two of us. And that's when things changed, because when we landed in Denmark, they were like, "Oh, we can't wait to see your show." And we were like, "Show?
Oh, what show?
We were just sent over here to meet and greet and, do some publicity." And they go, "A show?" And they go, "We got a stage and everything."
Oh my God.
Luckily, the Oliver Hardy could sing. He was a singer. He was a musical theater guy. And And I didn't know what else to do, but I said, well, they had oranges. I said, well, I'll juggle oranges. Stan Laurel will juggle. And so it was just all thrown together, and it went over. It was like a throw together show, and they liked it. But it was funny because it was also, we had to do a breakfast thing there, big, tourism thing in Denmark. And it was like 9:00 in the morning, and we did our thing, and then the people from Denmark go, "You guys need a break." So they took us over to a table for a break, and then they brought us big Carlsberg beers at 9 a.m. in the morning.
Maybe that's the one I would remember.
And so, there we were having beer in Denmark at 9 in the morning.
Was your Hardy Ed Bell?
Yeah.
Ed Bell.
Ed Bell.
That was before Beavis.
No, Beavis was here, but Beavis wasn't able to go on that trip.
Oh, okay. I remember Ed
But,
Bell.
yeah.
Incredible.
But stuff like that. But doing the Laurel and Hardy grew to even do outside work. I did a campaign for a paint company in Finland. We made like 20 commercials, and that all led from this job. And what was fascinating about it, because I've never had this experience since then, was we landed at the airport, and as we're driving to the hotel, all of a sudden we start seeing billboards with our pictures on them. And that was bizarre to see, and they'd even have, on one side of the street is a poster of me, and over this side is Oliver Hardy. And
Wow.
and they actually sent me some of the posters. So anyway, that's that. What else you want to know?
I love when you were telling me about how they would send Beetlejuice on the cruises and how it's like a free-for-all.
Yeah, we went through a phase where they tried characters on Norwegian cruise lines. Yeah. There was quite a bit of fun at 10 o'clock at night. 10 o'clock at night, Beetlejuice calling the bingo numbers.
Oh, that would have been awesome.
It was a lot of, it was actually fun.
Yeah.
It was stupid and silly, but it was fun.
How long would you be out on the ship for like?
Oh, you could go a week, 2 weeks,
Wow.
but
Yeah, I want a picture with Jimmy.
yeah.
Do I wear a hat or does Jimmy wear the hat?
What? No, just get in here. Get a picture.
The other day you told me about how you are the only performer to work with Christopher Lloyd. How did you get into the DeLorean with him? What was the premise of being in the DeLorean?
Well, there's a video out now. It's a retirement video that one of the employees gifted me, where he has all the footage from the Christopher Lloyd event. And it was very surreal because they brought Christopher Lloyd and Bob Gale into the room to say, "This is Doc, who you'll be working with." And then the most bizarre part was getting into places for the show. And we were in place for a good 5, maybe 10 minutes tops. But I'm in the driver's seat as Doc Brown, and Christopher Lloyd is in the passenger seat. And we're there together for 5 to 10 minutes waiting for action. And it was just so surreal because I'm dressed as Doc and I'm sitting next to Doc, and we're just having casual, like he's asking me how long I've been doing this, and, telling me I'm doing a good job, whatever, but it was just bizarre. And the funny part was that when we met in the room, they turned to Christopher Lloyd and they said, "Chris, Jimmy will introduce you, and then if you could say a few words to the crowd, that would be great." And I saw Christopher Lloyd get like a panic in his face, like, "Oh, what am I going to say?" And so he looked at Bob Gale, and Bob Gale went, you can always say, "Great Scott." And so we do the event. We zip out, pyro going, the DeLorean. I open the car lid, I get out, and I go, I'm coming from the future. I brought my great friend, my inspiration with me, warm welcome, Christopher Lloyd. He gets out, we go up on the stage, and they say, "Christopher Lloyd," and then he steps up to the microphone and he goes, "Great Scott."
No.
And the place goes nuts, and that was it. He did exactly what they told him to say. Great Scott, he was done.
That was it.
And then we did our little scene that we did for the closing of Back to the Future, and that was it. And then we went and rode the ride all together. It was me, Christopher Lloyd, and Bob Gale, and we rode the farewell to Back to the Future.
Did you get a ride photo?
I think so. And you know what the funny thing is there's all this paparazzi, and then I realized that one of the paparazzi is right there in the thick of all the paparazzi. There's one paparazzi that I recognize. And you know who it is? It's Blake Johnson.
No.
He's there. He got all the footage that everybody else got. Yeah, it just cracked me up. Everybody he just worked his way in as one of them. Anyway.
I think the DeLorean owners will recognize this car along with everybody else. And I don't think it's going to be a surprise who's driving it. Ladies and gentlemen, it is my privilege to introduce the founder of the Institute of Future Technology, the man himself, Dr. Emmett Brown.
I apologize for running late, but I had to stop and pick a good friend up. Hope that's okay.
Never a problem.
Oh, I would like to introduce someone who is truly my inspiration. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Christopher Lloyd! There you go. This is a paradox. Come on now.
Mr. Lloyd, it's a pleasure to have you with us today. Thank you for helping us celebrate the countdown to the final flight.
Very good. Great stuff.
Jimmy, what was the most challenging thing you did at Universal?
I think the highest pressure moment, challenging was I believe it was 1992, they decided to bring back Halloween Horror Nights. That was my first year here. They had a terrible tragedy with Halloween, so they canceled.
What was it?
Well, there was a young employee that was killed, unfortunately. So they took a big hiatus from Halloween. So when they brought it back, they kind of wanted to go big. And all I remember is upper management, Felix Musenden, came to the break room and he gave me my script. He said, "Learn this and meet me back of Waterworld area back there. Meet me there tomorrow morning at I think it was like 7:30 or something, and be ready to go at 7:30." And so I came to work, got all made up as Beetlejuice, and I learned my lines, and it was all about the entire what was happening. It was pretty much the commercial of Halloween Horror Nights. And so he picks me up, he comes in a golf cart, picks me up, and he takes me down to the Black Tower. And I go down to the Black Tower with him, and we go to the 5th floor. And we walk down the hallway, and there's a chair bench outside the door. And he goes, "Sit here and wait, and when it's your cue, I will open the door and you go in and do your monologue. So I sat there, and about 15, 20 minutes go by, and all of a sudden the door opens, and I walk in the room, and it's the board. It's the big long table with Lou Wasserman at one end and all the guys in the suits. And I go up to the podium and I give the whole spiel of what's going to happen for Halloween, that we're bringing this new, the Beetlejuice Graveyard Review, we're bringing Penn and Teller, and we're going to have all this entertainment in the park and the tram, and it's going to be Halloween at Universal Studios. And I was told when he brought me up there, do the speech and then just say, later, I'm out of here, and leave. And that was it. But it was the most, I would say, high tense, because once I walked in there and I realized it was just the big wooden table with Wasserman and
They never tipped you off who you were going to be doing this for?
no.
And you had it all memorized? You
Yeah,
didn't have
it was just a monologue
Unbelievable.
of all what was happening, all the people that were going to be performing, and
You kinda got ambushed.
and yeah, I was ambushed, but
You did it as Beetlejuice?
I did it as Beetlejuice, and I just walked up to the podium in front of the table, and I laid it out, and then I said, I'm out of here. You guys bore me, or something like that.
Oh
And I
my
walked, stormed out, and I slammed the door on the way out. and that was it. I walked out there going, wow, what did I just do?
We should have tipped you. I mean, obviously you did a brilliant job, but we should have tipped you off.
Oh. But, yeah. But it was really, anyway, that was intense. Yeah. That one, I earned my money that day.
Hey, Jimmy, can you tell me about your stories with Steven Spielberg?
Now?
Yeah.
Oh, let me tell you. So, back in the day, let's start by saying they built the studio center and they wanted to have the characters down there, but they realized after they built it, they did not build a place for the characters to break or go to the bathroom. So what happened was they had to bring in trailers. And so they put a trailer back behind the bungalows, and everybody from John Landis and everybody else would park right there and say good morning every morning to us when we came to work. And then one day more trailers showed up, and lo and behold, our trailer was right connected with the trailers for the shooting of Jurassic Park. So we were all there together. And anyway, Laurel and Harvey come off set, and we're walking down the thing, and the soundstage door opens, and Spielberg comes out, and he gets in the golf cart. We wave and say hello, and he gets in the cart, and I was dressed as Stan Laurel, but that's when I decided to audition for Jurassic Park. So I started doing my dinosaur, and I was like, rah, 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 and I started chasing the golf cart, and my coworker was laughing really hard, and all I remember is being like 5 to 10 feet behind the golf cart, and Spielberg like looking over his shoulder. And anyway, that was my audition for Jurassic Park. Unfortunately, I didn't get cast. But that's that story.
That's brilliant.
He missed out.
Yeah. So anyway, we were down there for all of that. And then lo and behold, I did an event once, which was the Thank You Steven Spielberg event. And they had stage 28, the old Phantom set, completely filled up with animals and straw. And it was a family-oriented celebration of Steven Spielberg. The company gave him an old, antique, special type of camera that they used way back in the day in Hollywood. And so Laurel and Harvey, we were right at the front door, and everybody that had ever worked for Spielberg like came to this party with their families. and it was just unbelievable. Because, you know, here comes Dreyfuss, here comes Danny DeVito, they just kept coming, and that was my first time where Steven Spielberg came up and he shook my hand. It was just,
But you guys were hired to work the event?
oh
To
yeah,
greet.
yeah.
And he shook your hand and
And we
thanked you?
shook their hand and thanked us, and it was
Wow.
just a family fun event, but it was like all the people that had worked with him in his career.
Were there other characters besides?
I don't really remember any other characters, but I do know we were there, Laurel and Harvey.
Wow. He must have been a Laurel, right?
You know, but I still remember, you know, the van pulling up and Danny DeVito's family. Hey, I was like, everybody came in, but it was a lot of fun. It was it was like a well done event because it was, you know, that was early in his career, really, and it was such a big event.
And at a legendary soundstage.
Oh yeah, a legendary.
That's no longer there.
And it was definitely a real thank you from the studio to him. It
Wow.
was genuine. Anyway, that was fun. And then one last one that I recall was we used to drive a Model T as Laurel and Hardy, and we exit there at my backdraft. And as we came around the turn is where they shot the Andy Griffith show. I just blanked on the name. Where he's the detective.
Oh, Matlock.
Matlock. We just happened to turn the corner, and so we slowed down, and there's Andy Griffith with like 6 girls in bikinis. It was the strangest thing ever, and they're all waving at us and cheering as we came around. So we slowed down, and then we started driving again, and then we heard all this screaming, yelling at us, and lo and behold, we didn't know, but Andy Griffith jumped up on the running board on our Model T, and next thing we knew, he was in his head in the door going, "Hiya, boys!"
Oh my
Yeah.
God.
So we had to stop. They were all worried
Wow.
about him getting hurt. But anyway, that was that. So, yeah, his life at the studio.
A day in the life.
Yeah. Yeah, you never knew which to stay. Yeah. Anyway, that's all.
Incredible.
Yeah, you know, they didn't have bathrooms, so we had to use the studio bathrooms underneath the soundstage there. I go down there to stand Laurel, and I'm at the urinal, and the star of Quantum Leap, what's his name? Quantum Leap, Scott Bakula?
Yes.
Scott Bakula. He's dressed as a priest, and he's at the urinal next to
With
me.
Stan Laurel.
And he turns to me and he goes, "Hi, Stan, how's it going?"
Oh my God.
Yeah.
That is
Once in a lifetime
brilliant.
story
That
right
is
there.
brilliant.
Anyway. You know, I had to suggest, you know, back in the day that they needed to have some assistance.
Yeah.
Because, you know, especially when we first started with a female character.
Yeah.
Because when I was here, it was all just 6 boys running the show here. So, but, you know, when we started doing outside events, we got into the situation, if there was an issue, they were dealing with me, the character, like there's a problem.
Yeah.
So it wasn't good that it was put on the character. They were like, well, this character's being a jerk or whatever, you know. That's why we needed like a coordinator to speak for the, no, like they can't do this.
Yeah.
You know, because some people wanted us to do all kinds of things.
Yeah.
You know, you can't. You got to be able to say no.
Yeah.
I guess basically it doesn't look good when the character is saying no.
Exactly.
No, it needs to be a different representative saying no.
This Bill was sitting in a building, born on the back of your hard work.
Well,
You
thanks.
justified and showed them why
Thanks.
this was so good and so important. They built a whole new building
Well,
years later because they were like, you know, this thing grew because someone called you up and said, "Can you juggle?" And you just came in.
It's the Jimi building.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, but you know, it's
We're renaming it in your honor.
like
It's already named in his honor. It's called
Like-
the Asshole.
yeah, and you know, geez. You want to see it again?
There's never been one.
Biggest ass of all. No, but like I was talking, or there were some people here earlier, and I was telling them, you know, the old school studio people really saw the power of characters, what they could do. And so they took advantage of it, and they wanted us to participate in everything.
Yeah.
So there was a lot of doors open, groundbreaking stuff that grew out of all that stuff because they threw us into situations, you know?
Like the Thanksgiving Day Parade, and this is when you can cut to Jimmy at
Right.
Macy's Thanksgiving Day Parade
Right.
in
Well,
New
like,
York City.
I'll give you an example. I mean, I'm so old. I was here when we broke ground for Orlando, Universal,
Wow.
Florida.
Oh my God, yeah.
So, here's what I mean when for the groundbreaking of Orlando with shovels, you know, the photo op was, it was Sid Sheinberg, Steven Spielberg, maybe Lou Wasserman, and Laurel and Harvey. It was, they made sure to send characters
Yeah.
for the groundbreaking of Orlando.
Yeah.
And today's theme park world has forgotten that type of magic.
Yeah.
There's a lot of magic in
We made it.
it. So
You made it.
anyway, but now there's you. The future of Universal Studios.
If
Right?
I can be as wonderful
Yeah.
a contributor here as you have been, so life well lived.
You're on your way, kid.
Love you, sir.
Yeah. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
And on behalf of the Minions, Jerry, the Minion especially,
Yeah.
they're presenting you with the Ultimate Deluxe Fart Gun.
Oh.
I just got the fart blaster.
At the top, the new edition.
It's got settings, different stuff.
Oh, I might have to stay longer so I can work with this.
It's all yours.
Yeah, that's.
Can you talk after?
Yeah. Thank you, sir. I have to give this young man a hug. Oh,
Don't hurt your back.
thank you. Thank you. Yeah. This music pumped in.
Yeah.
Back then, you would hear the roar of laughter and coming from the Wild West show. So when you're walking the streets,
That's what you heard.
you would hear the roar of excitement and applause.
Yeah.
So it created life.
Yeah.
Now it's in music or whatever.
Right.
So it's just a different time where it was the energy of entertainment was alive.
Now we're coming
And
up
I
here
was-
at Mel's Diner.
I worked here for the opening of Streets of the World. This was all built. This was the big attraction in like '88. And you're on, the Wild West show would end here in the mountain. Now you're going on to the parking structure, Frankenstein, below us.
Oh, okay.
So you're on top of the parking. But that's what, all this, Faber College, and back over here where the house is, they had the convertible, and that's where the doo-wop singers would sing their hits all day long.
And where did you do Jimi Juggle?
All over the park.
All over.
All over the park.
Didn't you do a waiter at Mel's?
Yeah,
too?
yeah, I did Leonard, the waiter, Leonard. Leonard.
Leonard.
And he was very silly, and that all took place in here. I would dance a lot to the doo-wop singers and do some juggling, but it was a lot of interaction. It was a lot of fun. And that all took place here. And then when they opened this, they had me on French Street as a French juggler because it was the opening. And Laurel and Hardy were dressed in sailor outfits on French Street. So that was for the opening. And we had a mime on French Street.
You did?
Yeah.
Did you have an accordion player?
And we had an accordion player that played the accordion all day. And sometimes it wasn't French music, it was like the Beatles or whatever.
Accordion.
But he was playing accordion all day long. And they had face painters and can dancers. And then the can dancers grew into a little show. So they would have juggling and can dancers. And in the early summer, the opening at the end of the street was a carousel. And we had a carousel at the end of the street for one whole summer. It was really nice. The first cafeteria that the park had, that was the employee cafeteria right in there. And we would eat out here for lunch. Yeah, but that was our first. They had a commercial. They had can dancers and I was juggling. And they filmed a nighttime shoot. And then one day I went to see a movie at the movie theater, and there it was on the movie screen, Universal Studios tour. And,
Now, when did you move over to doing VIP stuff? Was it immediately, or did it happen later?
No, the VIP program didn't start till much later. Yeah, that started. That started way late. Probably in the 2000s. Yeah, because the VIP used to be a bagged lunch at one point. So they get a brown bag. It's changed. Times have changed.
Now it's fancy.
And then they reopened this because this was originally like a restaurant. It didn't go over, so over the years it closed up, and they used it for special occasions. And then they finally created the VIP program. That was under Chef Eric, I think. And Chef Eric went and found all these all the paint, all the posters on the walls and everything. Some of them he even found in dumpsters. And yeah. It's bizarre. Where we were down earlier today on that main drive by the studios, down there by the Verna Fields building. Okay, that Verna Fields door opens, and I'm across the street walking, and Ron Howard comes out the Verna Fields door, and he goes, "Beetlejuice," and he waves. And I looked at him, and I said, "Hey, come here." And Ron Howard is crossing the street, coming to me, and in my head, I'm going, I just told Ron Howard, "Get up, come here."
Oh my God.
And then he came over, and I said, I had an encounter with his son years before. So I said, I just want to tell you, I have a story. Years back on Beetlejuice on the Backlot Cafe, and I got my food, and I'm walking to our break room to eat. And here comes a woman and a little redhead boy, about 5 years old. And I'm about 30 feet away, and I go, "Hey, Opie." I go, "Opie, come here." And I said, "Opie, when are we gonna go fishing?" And then he gets up to me and he goes, "Beetlejuice, I'm not Opie, Dad is."
Oh.
And they were filming the space movie Apollo 13. And it was right there. And then I said, "Well, you tell Aunt B I said hi." And he was all mad at me because I called him Opie. And so I retold Ron Howard that story. And then I told him, "Okay, you can go back." I said, I mean, it was forceful. I said, "Hey, come here."
Well, he's brilliant.
Anyway, that's it. It was a silly story, but hey, it's Hollywood, you got a little bit of that. Anyway, cut.
miss most about being here?
Oh God, I have no idea. I guess I don't know. I'm gonna miss though, a lot of my coworkers. Gonna miss all the smiles and joys that you got to bring to people's faces. Got to meet some famous people in here. Let's see. I saw Raleigh Fingers, baseball player here sitting there, and Gary Oldman sitting there. Leonardo DiCaprio there. It's just welcome to Hollywood. Yeah.
Did you have a favorite character throughout the years?
Oh, eat one.
Lucy.
What? Lucy. Oh, man. That Lucy, troublemaker. Yep. She makes me eat the cookies.
Yeah. And of your favorite characters that you've ever played?
I don't know. I had a lot of fun with all of them. Beetlejuice was probably the biggest game changer, though, really. That kind of changed. So that's the biggest character we've ever had here. The only character to ever have a bilingual roster. Yeah, it opened a lot of doors. I got to go all over promoting place. Got to do a pilot. Yeah, it was a groundbreaker. And then, it's the 1992 Character of the Year I got, lucky enough. And that was for my Beetlejuice work, pretty much. And the company was kind enough to give me a trip to London, England for that. So that was a big surprise, but it was good. Had a great time.
Now, you've been playing Beetlejuice for a very long time.
About 35 years.
And
or maybe 36.
How many different costume changes have you had?
Too many. A lot. There were, in the heyday, there were some days where I had to do 3 to 4 special events per day. To the point where Universal put me up at the Sheraton to sleep for like 4 hours, and then back to work. So, nothing like getting your makeup on in the Universal Sheraton at 5 a.m. in the morning. But it was all good. Fun stuff.
What character do you miss playing the most?
Well, Stan Laurel was a real special one. Unfortunately, people have, they forget the past, but there was so much love for Laurel and Harvey. Worldwide. I'd have people from India that would think I was Stan Laurel. It was just unbelievable. I don't know, that one I got emotional. But that character was so loved. It was unbelievable. All ages. And I was fortunate enough to meet people I met, that knew him, or I was working one day in my early days here at Stan Laurel. We're walking down Western Street. We do our set, have a nice crowd, and then this gentleman comes over, this Englishman, and he's very complimentary of how good we are. And he looked at me and he said, "As I saw you walking towards me, I thought it was the real thing." And I was like, "Wow, thanks." Then as he walked away, I found out it was Stan Laurel's son-in-law. So, anyway, yeah. Those are memories you can't relive. But the cookie, I can't. Anyway.
Great Scott! Don't forget, it's the time machine.